Welcome into the Crypto Bunker podcast. Today, I want to talk about this latest sell-off that we have in the market. Um, hopefully you guys took some profits. There's a potential that this is the top, but I don't think it is actually. I think that basically what has happened is that we have ended the four-year cycle. So the four-year cycle is over. We need to put that behind us. And we need to understand that these cycles are going to play out with the macro cycle. And, the macro cycle right now is basically that Bitcoin has been correlated to rates. I did talk about this before. I think I deleted some of my videos recently, but if you did catch some of those videos, I was talking about, the potential for a Bitcoin top. I did make a short video a few days ago saying, I could be wrong about that. The hedge eye signal had flipped bullish, and now it's back to bearish. So things can change. Ultimately, I did sell like almost all my Bitcoin, and then I bought back in probably a week ago, and now I'm sort of in the process of like, okay, what's my percentage? And basically, I took all the profits I had made from the trade from 30K to 100K. I basically took all those profits off the table, and then now I'm just letting the initial investment ride, which is still a lot of money. It's a significant portion of my retirement account, but because it's retirement, I'm pretty much willing to let it ride. I still believe that Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto in general, but mainly those two, are basically the millennials' last hopes for an S&P 500 or NASDAQ-like return. If you see, baby boomers, through basically the 80s and 90s, when they were just starting to make more money, when they were turning 30 and they were getting into their big money making years. They were able to dollar cost average into the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, and basically they just did that every pay period just like we do now. But back then, the S&P was 300 bucks or something. So basically, they've ridden that whole wave all the way up, and they never sold. And they just did it. They basically invented this for the baby boomer class. You could argue that the rich or the big banks or the money managers kind of did this on purpose, so that they could pump stocks to the moon, basically using stocks as savings rather than gold and silver, rather than decentralized assets, or maybe people, saving to buy a home, but they also were able to buy homes. So they've ridden that wave all the way up. So the baby boomers have rode the waves of basically house ownership, which has been an insane run. And they've also ridden the wave of the S&P and NASDAQ's returns. So what do we have left as millennials? What do we have left? Do we have Bitcoin? Do we have Ethereum? Yeah, those are basically our last opportunities, and really the only it's sort of like the last frontier. And it's in the digital world, right? Of course, there's no, you're not getting a crazy good deal on a house. You're buying the S&P at record valuations. It's hard to invest. You can't be a VC investor, right? Um, you need like a million or $2 million to be a VC investor, and you need to be qualified for that. So basically, crypto, things like Ethereum, Chainlink, Aave, you know, Eigenlayer, whatever you want to invest in, right? Optimism, Bitcoin, Uniswap, things like that, Solana. are basically our last vestiges, our last hope. Um, and right now, Bitcoin is flirting on the edge. To me, though, I mean, if you look at the wedge that I drew there, it's it's interesting. You can compare it. You could probably, I mean, I don't think you can compare it, but you probably could compare it to this top. Um, Not really though, because this was a shorter time frame than this. But right now we are losing the 20-week moving average. So this is about 77 days, 84 days of topping. This was about um, 100 days. Well, it may actually be almost exactly the same, but no, we'll say it's a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, if we did get something like that, maybe we could get, like something like that, bring us down to this level, and then, make a double top in August. I don't see that as like a reasonable pattern at this point. But we can't lose the 20-week. We do see, back in 2017 run that we test the 20-week many times here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, you could technically say, you could really, really say that this was not really the bull market. This was basically what I would compare to this area. And then we tested the 20-week here, and then we took off. So maybe we can have the excuse of doing that same thing here. It's hard to say. It's definitely hard to say. It does depend on the macro, but here's my macro framework. My macro framework basically is we are going to get deflation and increase in growth. But first comes the pain of sort of pricing that in. We have a lot of job cuts to the government. That's a major part of our economy. It's a major part of people's, livelihoods and spending. And I don't agree with everything that Trump's doing and with Elon and everything. It's kind of scary. We are losing the 200 week here for Ethereum, which is scary. And so, I mean, if we honestly lose these weekly averages on ETH, I don't really know where we can go from here. I'm personally excited to dollar cost average into this at a cheaper valuation, but you can see that we really haven't. This is basically the bull market support for ETH. It's been a shitty bull market, but it has gone up, a decent amount from the bottom, which is like, around 900. So, it's gone up, 3 or 4x. And it's really bounced off of this 200 week a lot. I mean, here, we definitely had it loses it here. I mean, it's temporarily lost it, but that was really not necessarily in the bull phase. You could argue that ETH really never had a bull run. You could argue technically that we were basically in this sort of range here, currently experiencing sort of this crash of 2020 for ETH. Obviously that would put us at crazy numbers, but I'm not saying that that's going to happen. But I'm not saying it's not possible either. Because like the issue right now is that the entire market, and I just tweeted, a few of these things out, so we'll see if I can pull them up on here, but let's see. So So yeah, the issue I see is that because people continue to play the barbell strategy of Bitcoin and Solana memes and did not evangelize or bet on fundamental coins, ETH, DeFi, they are now caught in basically the king of all memes, Bitcoin, and the meme casino, Sol. As a market, we need to differentiate between memes and fundamentals, or we will be caught in the same market forever. As deflation comes in, jobs are lost, AI makes businesses more efficient. They're going to thread the needle and get to high growth and slowing inflation. QE is what we need, and I believe we will get it by the end of this year at the latest. Once that starts, it's basically a year and a half to wait until it works through the system for a top similar to 2020, 2021. Just hope that once QE starts, that memes and Solana are dead. Every retail participant, every VC are stuck in the trade now. Every single podcast host and friends are all in Sol. I believe because of this and because big banks will begin using Ethereum soon for stablecoins and RWA, it will underperform as more and more people struggle to get out of the trade. If we continue to play the barbell game, it will suck all the energy out of the space and eventually eat itself. The narrative has to change away from Solana, but because the community is so toxic and strong, no one wants to say it. Maybe Raoul Pal will, since he invests a lot of time in ETH NFTs and understands the ETH trade relative to big banks and TradFi. So that's my take on the situation currently. The charts are really bad. There's nothing really to do at this point except to hope that Bitcoin doesn't lose the 20-week. If it does lose the 20-week, we're probably headed to around 74, which would be the 50-week. But at this point, if you haven't sold, I mean, it depends where you bought in, but it's probably not the best time to sell right now. It's not, definitely not. None of this is financial advice. But yeah, definitely not a good time to sell. Probably a good time to just DCA, chill, and just ride it out. I mean, like I said, did the baby boomers ever sell their S&P or their house or their NASDAQ? No, they did not. And Bitcoin is that for us. And honestly, it sucks because Bitcoin becoming the biggest coin, by so much, has really hurt the space. And it's kind of what I said in that tweet. But like Ethereum is literally building a new financial system. Things like Aave and Chainlink and DeFi. We're talking about like hundreds of trillions of dollars that will be on top of Ethereum. Because it's the most secure, they're not going to put it on Solana. It's obvious at this point that Solana is basically a rug pull casino, especially with everything that happened with Javier Malay and the Libra coin. It's just, I don't think you're going to get in trouble because Trump did his own meme coin, but you're not using Solana. Like, no, if you've done that as like a big institution, there's just no way that you can do it. You can't even guarantee execution at all times on Solana. You can't guarantee that it's not going to go down. ETH never goes down and it always executes on the trade. It's also proof of stake, so it's better for energy usage. But honestly, right now, they want to FUD you out of your coins. And so I'm not going to be someone that does that. These big players will accumulate the coins. They have the money. They will paint the chart the way they want, just like they do for equities. And Bitcoin and ETH and all these things are the new frontier, even for them. So they have to secure their spot as well. So you can't lose your spot after they've already secured, or sorry, before they've secured their spot. And so, especially in things like ETH, just dollar cost average Bitcoin and just chill. I mean, just make it a percentage of your portfolio that you're comfortable with. For me, it's like 35 for Bitcoin. For ETH, it's just kind of a slow trickle. I don't have that much right now. I did actually sell a lot of altcoins probably a month ago and paid off some credit card debt. Because like they make you feel like there's like no, that this is the last opportunity and all, like there's no time. And then you end up, spending all your money on crypto, and then you build up your credit card debt because you have to pay for everything else, like food and everything. And then what happens for me is I just end up selling that crypto and paying off the debt at some point. So that basically happened. But it's a good thing that I, was able to get out. Um, and now I'm just kind of resetting. Everything is a reset. Everything is, I wouldn't even care if we went down to 44 at this point, which is the 200 week. The weekly moving averages are in order. They are pretty wide, but they are sort of just starting at the same time. It's not like they are as wide as they were for these tops, certainly. So we're not even really close to like that type of environment, I don't think. Um, you know, is the US government really going to let Bitcoin drop below 75,000? Because like they're talking about buying some, it's going to look so shitty for them if they do that. So let's take a look at this trend line that is sort of forming, which is kind of like the 50 week. Again, the 50 week, definitely something to look at. Maybe this is a different cycle than the 20 week being the support line. Maybe we come in, and because this was the support for the 50 week, maybe the 50 week is actually what we're looking for. With ETH, though, we obviously capitulated out of all the moving averages here. At this point, the 20 week is crossing bearish. It's basically didn't even cross bullish here. But because the moving averages for the weekly are so close together, this is definitely when you want to accumulate. You can see how close that is there. I'll take away this one just so that you can see. This is how close they are. That's when you really want to accumulate the most. You could also say like when we were here was a good time, and it's sort of that same range. You can look at accumulating even down here when the moving averages were close. You can look at accumulating down here when they were close. It's a similar spot. ETH really never had a bull market. If you look at just the moving averages, you could see that they weren't even in order here when we topped, and they were barely anything compared to, when we topped here, when they were, this massive sort of widespread between the moving averages. So yeah, I mean it's hard to say, but ETH definitely tends to have like capitulations before big moves. We just don't know, like because we had this capitulation, which was actually sort of around the same time frame. It was 2017. That's when I actually started recovering, but it was pretty close to what's happening now. We obviously had, and I'm talking about like non-bear market capitulation. So obviously like these don't really count but I'm talking about like these capitulations here. I'm not comparing it to this because that was like obviously like support on the 20 week. It was just so bullish. This is not that. Right now we're below that, and I actually would compare it to the 2020 crash, which means that we could go lower. Like I said, if you're comparing it to this crash, like we could go to like, 1400, 1500, 1600 range in a crash scenario. And then maybe we accumulate back up in a squeeze. And then this summer, JP Morgan launches a stable coin on Ethereum, and all of a sudden we're at all-time highs by August. And we sort of, barely crashed, and then we test the all-time highs, and then we go to the absolute moon as like every bank starts to do real world assets. And actually the bull market ends in 2026, which would make sense because my theory about quantitative easing is that it takes about a year and a half to go through. So once we start quantitative easing, that will take about a year and a half to go through. I also want to take a look at this because this is the Fed balance sheet. So you can see they have been they have been selling their assets since April 2022. And this is basically QE. And you can basically match this up with altcoin charts and everything. And so basically what happened last time was like in August of 2019, there was a failure of like a money market reverse repo thing, and it basically popped. But we have now gone through the trend line, going back to 2008, which is pretty crazy because I did not think that would happen. I thought we would start to get QE when we hit that. And they've figured out like some other scheme, I think, but basically the moving averages had now crossed fully bearish here. And I did try to make like a time frame from when we went from the 200, basically from when we broke below the 200 week to when we started QE. And we're kind of getting closer. We're like 90 days out from that possibility, from at least what happened last time. Last time we broke the 200 week, but we've never seen a QT like this before. And so, I've also talked about how I've been bullish bonds, and now we are crashing. My target for the 10-year is like 3.5 or in the 3.6 to 3.2 range. We've lost the 20 week. We've made a lower high from this high. And basically at this point, we have like, maybe 4 or 5 weeks in a row of up only. So TLT breaking the 20-week moving average here. I do believe it could come up to the 200-week, whatever that might be. It's not that big of a move. I think it could go higher, but it depends on if we get deflation or if we get disinflation coming in, which I do think we'll get with Trump. The dollar also crashing, which I talked about before, sort of emulating this move here, which was from the last time that Trump was in office. So basically the same exact thing. So we could see, and maybe the bottoming of the dollar is the top for crypto, right? And I kind of match that up like again with 2026, like a year from now. In terms of gold and silver, I think we are topping out here on gold and silver. Yeah, we probably topped officially. I do think it's probably over for both gold and silver, unfortunately. It was a good run, it was a good run, very wide on the weekly moving average. This is a time where you really do want to look at taking a sell. You could actually say this is even wider or probably equal to no, it's actually a little bit wider even than this top. And you could also say, is it wider than this top? Yeah. No, it's not, but that was a real blow off top there, for sure. I don't think that gold will pull that off at this point. So I do think it's over for that move. And I think that basically what gold has priced in throughout all this time was inflation. And I think inflation is basically over. I think we're going to experience deflation, and that is bad in the short term for growth. But in the long term, if we can get some QE going, which I think they will, then I think that will be good for assets and everything. We are testing the 20-week here on the Qs. Right, perfect on the 20-week. I do see it as well as S&P as a good buying opportunity for stocks and things like that. So yeah, stay safe out there. Hopefully you got something out of the video. I know I didn't really cover other cryptos. Sol obviously running up to potentially the 50 weeks soon, or sorry, the 100 week soon. And now it's catching support but it's probably not gonna stay there. At this point, the crash has been 55% in only maybe 5, 6 weeks. That's really, really heavy. Aave is crashing super hard out of the 20 week for sure. Um, doesn't look great. I probably will catch support. I'm guessing down around a bigger crash from here basically. But same with Link. It's trying to catch support in the weekly moving averages, but right now the 200 week depends what ETH does, right? If ETH doesn't seem to want to hold this. I think it's like kind of a huge capitulation moment for ETH. And right now, I wouldn't be surprised to come down to this sort of level here where we started this big move, which would be about 1,500. And it would also match this pattern from COVID, which would give us I think a 50, no, more than, sorry, like a 70% crash from the top. What do we got here? 63% crash from the top to the bottom. ETH BTC, it would be interesting here to see if ETH BTC didn't make a lower low. That would sort of be, I think, a cool thing to see. And yeah, Bitcoin just continues to go down only. So yeah, now I think we're probably looking at this 50-week moving average. So again, hopefully you got something out of the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.